The content that we're going to learn today is meditation, daily meditation practice. This Pith instruction is included in the extensive biography of Shakyamuni Buddha. I believe the Tibetan version of it has 500 pages, and the Chinese version that I translated also has 500 pages. This one was published by the Tibetan International Publishing House, the Chinese version, that is. Back in the first copy, the first printed copy was in 2016 May. And what we're learning today is actually at the very back of it. Do you all have books? Maybe some of you have books. If you bring it, it's rather quite heavy. So we don't have PowerPoints? Oh, some technical problems. Technical problems every day. Why was I not aware of it? Well, fine. This is then the karma. And this one is the biography or stories of 8 bodhisattvas. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow you will get it. Which publishing house is this? Also, Tibetan Language International Publishing House. I think it is not officially sold in bookstores yet, so we'll have the first copies. I think many people are not quite familiar with how or who the 8 bodhisattvas are, and they don't really know the background stories of the 8 bodhisattvas. So Mipham Rinpoche, with his wisdom, taught lots of Pith instructions within the great biography. So this great story, this book of stories of 8 bodhisattvas, once you get the book, I really hope that you can all study it well. Khenpo Rinpoche also taught on this. Many people actually read it before, and the content has lots of similarities with Tripitaka, and you can find where it comes from. So this is the 8 bodhisattvas, the stories of 8 bodhisattvas. After a while, you should be able to also get it. Today, the Tibetan lamas and nuns, they have this chanting right now that's happening, and I think they just stopped it. Now they're chanting the Pamasambhava mantra. Today is really auspicious, because a little while ago we learned about Shakyamuni Buddha, and then after that we talked about to give the teaching of how to practice upon seeing the image of the Buddha. And today is actually the first day of Sagadawa. I think a few weeks ago we also talked about Vesak, and the Tibetan calendar Vesak actually happens in this month, and I really hope that all of you would then practice virtuous deeds in this month. If you can be complete vegetarian, that would be great. If you can't, at least in Sagadawa in this month, I really hope that you can be a vegetarian. Also, if you could offer lamps and chant mantras and do as much as virtuous deeds as possible. So this month is quite virtuous and auspicious month, according to the Tibetan calendar. And from this class onwards, we will take 4 classes to talk about the Pith instructions on the meditation. And then on Sunday, we will talk about how to repent, relying upon Vajrasattva. Today, the content is based on omniscient Mipham Rinpoche's teaching on how to visualize the Buddha Shakyamuni and then practice meditation. This is quite profound. I think without PowerPoint, it's rather difficult, but try your best to then visualize. Is this not printed? So maybe you can send it to your cell phones. Send it to your cell phones. Is it in? Did you make that announcement in advance? No? Well, I really don't like how unprepared you are. See, you don't have the booklets. Now you're sending to cell phones. Whose cell phone are you sending to? Do you have it on your cell phone? Yes? Oh, okay. That's satisfactory. Okay, fine. Cell phones. But put it on silent. I don't like it to make noises. Now, we are going to learn directly at the very back when it talks about the actual instructions, the ultimate meaning of visualizing the Buddha. This great, extensive biography of the Buddha was translated back in 2001. I was there around November, December, and then I finished translating around May the 2nd or something like that. I was staying in a hospital treating some of my illnesses, and during which I used that period of time to then did my translation. My voice may sound a little bit hoarse because I traveled around to a few schools and I got sick. I got a little bit cold, and then I feel really fragile right now. Today, the oral transmission of Tibetan is a bit too much. Maybe reading it is good, but it's a lot. We'll see. I think by listening to Chinese, you can also receive the transmission, because I will then explain it sentence to sentence and word to word. So it says that if we can visualize and make offering to the Buddha Shakyamuni, who is endowed with the immeasurable good qualities, it equates with the visualizing and making offering to all the Tathagatas. The content that we are learning today actually has lots of special and profound Pith instructions. So I really hope that you can take your time and really contemplate on some of those points and Pith instructions. So once you visualize only one Buddha, you in fact already visualized all the Buddhas of 3 times. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this before. You probably all consider that, okay, Amitabha is Amitabha and Shakyamuni Buddha is Shakyamuni Buddha. And if I offer to the medicine Buddha, it has nothing to do with Vajrasattva, just as how we then grasp onto different individuals as them being separate. In the sutra requested by the magician Wonderful Worthy, it is said that if one has made offering to one Buddha, he has made offering to all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, because all the Tathagatas, I and Dharmadhatu, are inseparable and in all times are no different from one another. The other Tathagatas will thus also accept his offering. Just as if we make offering to Shakyamuni Buddha, then Amitabha also receives the offering as well. If we make offering to one Buddha, the offering that we make also makes to all the Buddhas of all the 10 directions. So this is what it talks about over here. We should know the nature of all the Buddhas. In fact, in the Avatamsaka Sutra, it also said the same, where it says then, just as the mind can produce various thoughts from the Dharmakaya of Tathagata, bodies of the Buddhas manifest. We have different graspings towards different individuals, different entities, but that should be eliminated. If we see the Buddha or the picture or any kind of depiction of the Buddha, even if we think of Buddha for one moment, we in fact have all the merit of thinking of all the Buddhas. And such a person will definitely then be devoid of all different sufferings. In fact, all the bliss comes from the Buddha's blessings. Even some momentary happiness all comes from the blessings of the Buddha. We often say Lama Chenno and Sanji Chenno with a kind of gratitude. The merit of all the Buddhas cannot be compared with the mundane beings. It also mentioned that the Buddha pervades the Dharmadhatu, wishing to benefit sentient beings. They manifest numerous emanations in order to preach the Dharma to them. And they are as pervasive as the space and like reflections on the water. And the Buddhas, for the benefit of all sentient beings, appears in the world. And also, the meritorious virtue within a single pore of Buddha cannot be measured by the united efforts of all beings in this world. In Avatamsaka Sutra, it also says that if you see and offering to the Tathagatas, all the merits that you can receive is immeasurable. So we should know that After knowing the merits of the Buddha, you should then be able to generate respect and gratitude towards the Buddha. And then, by visualizing him, chant the Buddha's name and mantra diligently and constantly. Just do it with your action. First of all, you need to know the merit, understand Shakyamuni Buddha's merit. We should not view him as almost as Socrates or Gandhi, as some kind of mundane philosopher. We should not view the Buddha like that, because when the Buddha gave teaching on the Tripitaka, can any mundane being in this world do that? Everything in this world, all the truth of the phenomena that he taught. Can you think about who else in history have done that, have taught that? So first of all, you really need to know the Buddha's merit and then give rise to the unshakable faith. And then visualize the image of the Buddha, and then chant its mantra, and you can chant Namo Shakyamuni Buddha and other mantras like such. And then that would be quite significant and valuable. And you will generate great merit as well. So I really hope that you could contemplate and think about that. It's quite important to develop great understanding as well as having persistence. Do not just have a sense of very waveable belief that you believe in this today and believe in the other tomorrow. If you cannot visualize him and think about him all the time from moment to moment, at least one can concentrate on visualizing him for a short period of time, such as 7 days. Such as the 7-day retreat of chanting Buddha name, like Amitabha's name, or Shakyamuni Buddha's name, or Medicine Buddha's name, or Vajrasattva's retreat of chanting names as well. So one pointedly do that for a short period of time. Just as in the fall, we usually have Amitabha's name chanting retreat. In Tibet, we say it's a Dharma assembly, but I think in mainland area they would say it's a retreat. And right now we have the retreat of Vajrasattva. Sometimes we have Avalokiteshvaras. All of these kind of practices were there all the way from Khenpo Rinpoche when he was still with us. If you could do that with strong devotion and full attention and visualize the Buddha who is possessed of all inconceivable virtues for 7 days, then at dawn of 8th day, he can then dress properly and make offering and chant the sadhana. You will see the Buddha that night. And if it's not chanted properly, then at least he will be able to see the Buddha when death approaching. As I called up on all of you to enter in retreats and practice in retreats, there are meditation practices of looking at the image of the Buddha. There you can place a Buddha statue in front of you and then meditate upon it. There are practices of there are practices like such in Mahayana or in the Han tradition as well as Theravada traditions. So on the 8th day, you can, after 7 days of practicing like that, on the 8th day you can dress properly and then make offering, chant sadhana. The 8th day or 8th night, it's rather after the 7th day, in the early morning or the dawn of the 8th day. I think it is more obvious when it is in the winter when we practice the Wangzu and magnetizing Dharma assembly. We would get up in the morning of the last day of the Dharma assembly and then ask for granting us the cities. Otherwise, if you don't practice it with full attention, with one-pointed attention, then it might be very difficult for you to see the Buddha on that very day of the 8th day or the dawn of the 8th day. So it says that if the sadhana is not chanted completely or dedicatedly, diligently, if you didn't finish 7 days completely, then maybe you won't be able to see the Buddha. But because of such merit of chanting the name of Buddha, then at least you should be able to then reborn in the Pure Land. So I think, I really hope that you can regard it as not something that is grasping on the form. Rather, I encourage you to see it as a way of generating merits. You never know how long your life would last. I know lots of young people laugh at how older people would chant the Buddha's names, but really, how long are you going to live? Nowadays, we see so many of the car accidents, different cancers, different accidents, different life-threatening dangers that happen to young people every day. But how can you be sure that you will live longer? So you really should be determined to then chant the Buddha's names. In Tibet or in mainland, lots of people would consider, well, now you're getting old, you should just chant the Buddha's names. I don't think it's a good tradition, because this is taking the young life as granted that they will live till they're old. That's not true. In fact, it is much better if you can chant the Buddha's name when you are young, because you're still healthy, you're not affected by the age, by your health problems, the ones that people tend to get when they get older, and you're still quite energetic. So try to practice it while you're still energetic, while you're still young, while you still have time and the health to chant it. So spend 7 days straight to chant the mantra, to visualize, make the visualization. That's the best. And then the next one says that in the samadhi of direct encounter with the Buddhas of the present, in fact, this is also a chapter that is included in the Great Heap Jewel Sutra. This is a chapter of the This is a chapter of it. I think this particular one is translated back in 1970s. I think back in 2013, when I went to Stanford University, the professor who translated this, in fact, translated this particular sutra into English. I heard that he translated back in the 70s, and after several editions, he published it in 1990s. In mainland China, this is a very important text. This is studied, chanted, and taught how people should participate in diligent practice in mainland China, and it is also placed with great importance in the West as well. The Chinese version is a little different. The title of the Chinese version is a bit different than the Tibetan version. The main part of it, we'll talk about it a little bit later over here. It says that Bodhisattva, whether they be householders or renunciants, go alone to a secluded spot and sit down, and in accordance with what they have learned, they concentrate their thoughts on the Tathagata. If you don't have the picture of a Tathagata or a picture of a Buddha, then you can listen to how other people describe it. Upon listening to it, you can then visualize it on top of your crown or in front of you, whichever way you feel comfortable with. And if you could have concentrated for 7 days and nights with undistracted minds on the Tathagata for 7 days and nights, then they should be able to see the Tathagata during the day. If not, at least they can see the Tathagata at night during their dreams. They'll definitely be able to see the image of the Tathagata. You'll be able to see the beautiful image and appearance of the Tathagata. So sometimes we do dream about Tathagata, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or your guru. This is very good, but we should not grasp onto it. If we practice for 7 days and nights, for example, if you practice Vajrasattva for 7 days, then when you're in your dreams, you'll be able to dream that you wear some very clean clothing, and you can probably drink some really pure Amrita, and at that time, all of those dirt will be expelled from your body. This is in fact all parts of the signs where you've already seen the Tathagata. And then later on, he talks about Sukhavati. It also mentioned that upon hearing about the presence of Buddha Amitabha in the Pure Land, one should repeatedly contemplate and visualize Amitabha in the above-mentioned way. In a similar way that at the mention of in fact, the Pure Land is so far away, but the power of visualizing and thinking about the Buddha Amitabha is very different, is very strong. And over here, Mipham Rinpoche then gives the example of just like a person heard of the name of a prostitute who has this unraveled beauty, but that prostitute lives so far away. So this lustful man will immediately yearn for her without even having seen her yet. He will even dream of making love with her and feel contented about it. How could that be possible? Just by without seeing her, but only thinking of her, he can be contented. In the sutra, it in fact talked about how 3 lustful men heard about the 3 different names of prostitutes, and they all had great longing and lustful thinking about those prostitutes. And by thinking about that, each of them at different places at different times all had different dreams about the prostitutes they've heard of and get contented after the dream. Yes, it's a dream. But it's just like how we hear different information from different places. But once your desired mind started arising, your actions are completely changed. Just like how Sukhavati Pure Land is so far away from us, yet just by thinking about it, contemplating it, and longing for it, it generates great energy and power. The Chinese version of this particular sutra, where it describes all this, is named as the Prajnaparamitas boat of Samadhi, and the translation over here is called the Samadhi of direct encounter with the Buddhas of the present. So when you hear the name of the Buddha and you visualize the merit and the samadhi and the meditation of all the Buddhas, then you'll be able to gain all such merits. And you will receive the blessings of Amitabha, and then later on will be able to eventually be reborn in the Pure Land. So what kind of cause and conditions is that? This is because of the samadhi and blessings of the Tathagata. Just as how our video stream could send to the United States, and they can see me through different platforms. And this is quite incredible as well. There are 1,000 rivers and 1,000 mountains in between us, yet you see me without problem. That is also just as incredible. Our faith to Amitabha could then be a little bit different or switch from time to time. It's just like how when we look at ourselves and our face appearing in a mirror. Although when we're so far away from the mirror, my appearance can appear in the mirror. The mirror is not moving to me, and I'm not moving into the mirror, but the image is corresponding, it's simultaneous. What does it mean? What it describes over here is that if we practice diligently, we will be able to, if we practice diligently according to the methods, then we can see the Tathagata. Just like if my teacher or your teacher passed away years ago, but by practicing and thinking about him, you'll be able to dream about him at night. You'll be able to still look at his appearance in your dream. This is very possible. What's the reason behind that then? So continuously, it has the explanation about the reason. Let's now listen to this analysis. In fact, the Tathagata has not come here from anywhere. It's not that Tathagata actually came all the way to me right in front of my face after crossing thousands of rivers and thousands of mountains. It's not like that. It's very difficult to then commute in a few seconds to go to a far, far away place. I really like the mirror metaphor previously stated. You did not enter the mirror, and the mirror did not enter you, but the appearance appeared at the same time as you are there. Just as how the moon in the sky also could have its reflection in the river, in the water pond. The moon did not fall into the water, and the water did not get into the moon, but it reflects the moon at the same time. In the clear water, all the images appears. Let it be clouds, let it be human beings, they could all have its reflections, but it doesn't have coming or going at all. So, for the same reason, let it be Vajrasattva or Amitabha, they can do exactly the same. For people who are then the beginners, they all feel that, if I call upon Vajrasattva, then they have to come to me from far, far away. It's not like that. It is in fact based on the dependent origination. The three realms are all based on your mind. It is because of the strength of the mind you can see the existence. According to the great Prajnaparamita Sutra, it explains it very well. I really hope that you could contemplate upon it very, very carefully, because it has such deep and profound teachings of the Dharma. Everything is neither within or without or outside of the mind. As it says that Tathagata is also the appearance of Tathagata. People would say that, I've seen the Buddha, I'm so happy. But don't grasp onto it, because they're just the manifestation of the mind. You cannot get it outside or inside. The mind actually just arises out of cause and conditions. It doesn't have any intrinsic existence, just like a dream. The nature is devoid of any substance. It has no substantial existence and is considered to be unborn, and that which is unborn is not apprehensible as an object. In our relative world, it is dreamlike, and the nature is empty. In the great Madhyamika, it talks like that. In the Tantra, it also talks about that. We do see, yes, we see the images of the Buddha, and the nature of it is empty. But does the Buddha has the power of blessings? Yes, they do. I really don't want to see that how practitioners, after chanting so many Buddha names, they started grasping even more. I don't like seeing that. Okay, let's continue. It says that if they possess the four dharmas, the bodhisattvas and mahasattvas obtain the samadhi of direct encounter with the Buddhas of the present. So what are the four dharmas? Faith and cannot be shaken, the vigor never to turn back, and the wisdom that others cannot lead astray, and the fourth one is attendance upon good friends. I think these four are quite crucial for all of us in this era in our practical life. I know lots of people whose faith are quite shakeable. Some of them, they studied Tantrayana for a long period of time, and then they tell me, I don't want to study Vajrayana anymore. I want to study Mahayana. And I want to study the Sutrayana teachings. And some of them, they would say that I don't want to take refuge in three jewels anymore. Even that some of them have taken refuge for a long period of time. Wisdom and compassion, where does such power come from? It comes from good friends. In fact, in Sutrayana, it also talks about how we should view the good friends, or actually over here it talks about the good teachers. Okay, you should really read into it. It's not any, you don't have any choice, you should read into it. This is actually written in this sutra, the Sutra of Samadhi of Direct Encountering with the Buddha of the Present. It talks about how you should view your teacher as a Buddha. Lots of Sutrayana practitioners used to criticize Vajrayana because they think that viewing the teacher as a Buddha is absolutely not reasonable. So in this sutra, it says that if you do not view your teacher as a Buddha, then you won't be able to attain the samadhi of directly encountering with the Buddha of the present. It's stated very clearly in this sutra. Bodhisattva and Mahasattva obtain the samadhi of direct encountering the Buddha of the present, possess these four dharmas. So one-pointedly viewing the Buddha, visualizing the Buddha, let it be Amitabha, let it be Buddha Shakyamuni, this is the samadhi of direct encountering the Buddha of the present. So at that moment, if you can diligently practice these four methods, which are the cause of samadhi, as a result, we will attain the samadhi of direct encountering with the Buddhas of the present. I think the blessings coming from the blessings are quite important, because we can see that people who chant the name of the Buddha and chant mantras very often, in fact, you can see the difference in them. Some people who don't chant the Buddha's names, they do not, maybe temporarily they have good eloquence and so on, but really that kind of power is very different. After achieving the samadhi, one can easily behold the Buddhas of the 10 directions and are able to obtain such immeasurable merits as learning, wisdom, realization, 6 paramita, samadhi, dharani, and supernatural powers, and so on. Moreover, one will never regress from the supreme path to enlightenment and will become one of those who are not born in any of the benighted states and who remember their rebirth. Furthermore, there will become who, even in their dreams, are not deprived of the vision of the Tathagata. They will become fair, beautiful, and handsome, endowed with the high excellence of splendor and beauty. On top of that, they will receive high rebirth and noble lineage and have personal following that are numerous and inseparable. And it also says said that in a terrifying situation, when terrifying situation occurs, anyone who are learning the methods can practice the samadhi, which equates of making offering to them as all Buddhas in the past and future. A bodhisattva also asked, how could Mahasattvas cultivate this samadhi? Then the Tathagata answered, many people ask the question, how should I gain such kind of strength? So how could I gain such merits in my daily life? I'm already having a cold, and if I chant the Buddha's names, would it help me? I'm encountering some problems in my job, then would I get well soon? Would I get a better job soon? But I think in terms of these, it's better to chant Buddha's name when you're not sick, or when you still have the opportunity to chant the name, because there are the medicines which are rather efficient and some are not. I think it is better for young people to start chanting and start learning when they're young, because if they grow up in different environments, and then their mentality and how they view the Dharma, how they view such chanting will be very different. But studying Dharma is a correct path, but lots of people, they grow up in the kind of environment that's rather the opposite of recognizing the Dharma as the right path. And for many, many different reasons, our view could be of the different way of the right view. That happens. So, how Mahasattvas should then cultivate such a samadhi? And then Tathagata answered as saying that just as I am as present sitting before you and teaching the Dharma, in the same way, bodhisattvas should concentrate the Tathagata, arhats, and the perfectly awakened one as sitting the Buddha's throne and teaching the Dharma. They should concentrate on the Tathagata as being endowed with all the finest aspects, being handsome, beautiful, love to behold, and endowed with bodily perfection. That's why thinking about the Tathagata, looking at the Tathagata, thinking about the Tathagata, hearing about the Tathagata, the merits that generates from the above are immeasurable. It is because the Buddha in fact, sacrificed a lot for all sentient beings in the causal stage for eons in the past. And it is all because of all of those that he did for all sentient beings. He gained this beautiful body, beautiful appearance. Just as nowadays, there are the concentrated tea. It's not that they have one or two tea leaves in there, rather they are the concentrate form of tea. The form of it is rather small. It's very condensed, very little bit, but out of it, it has all the essence, all the concentration of tea. So it's the same. For the same reason, after so many lifetimes, so many kalpas, Shakyamuni Buddha slowly accumulated different merits and sacrificed himself for all sentient beings, and now he appears as the Buddha who then is endowed with all the finest aspects. His body is the body of merits. And such a body, if you see it, think about it, hear about it, anything related to this body is meritorious for that person whosoever sees it or hears it. That is why it's very different to see the picture of the Buddha than seeing the picture of any mundane beings. This is quite important to remember. I know lots of people, they have great wrong views, lots of wrong views. They have great resources for wrong views, but they don't have great resources for the right view. It is probably because of different educational background, their habitual patterns, and the way they grow up, and so on. Many people, they grow up because of different conditions and causes that give rise to the wrong views, but they don't have too much that gives the rise to the right view. After training themselves to think about it like this way, and then you can think, oh, how marvelous is the beauty of those Tathagatas, arhats, and perfectly awakened ones. I too, at a future time, shall be endowed with such bodily perfection and shall perfect such marks. So they can make such aspiration. This is also recorded in lots of the stories of the 8 bodhisattvas. You can read into it. There are many instructions in the sutra about how to contemplate and visualize the Buddha. After focusing your mind in such a way, you can then develop conviction in the non-existence of so-called I and bodhisattva. And the merits of contemplating the illusory nature of all phenomena are also elaborated in this sutra. We should not see all the bodhisattvas as something solid. You have to then contemplate on the illusory nature of all phenomena. In the Perfection of Wisdom in 700 lines, or the Great Prajnaparamita Sutra, it is the 7th chapter of it. I think this is also translated into English. And this chapter is called Manjushri chapter, or the 7th chapter. Over here it says that Buddha told Manjushri, saying that there is a concentration called one single array. Over here it means what one single array means. It means to view the bodhisattva, or view the Buddha, Tathagata. Some people probably never really heard about meditating on the image of the Buddha. In fact, the best meditation of it is meditating on the image of the Buddha. In the World Buddhist Symposium or different events, I promoted such method of meditating on the image of the Buddha, image of the Buddha. Sometimes we get too profound. We talk about how to abide in the great perfection state. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. But nowadays, I think lots of the meditation have already switched. They call it meditation, but then their focus would be looking at a piece of rock or looking at a piece of flower and so on. Well, how can you still call it a meditation or Buddhist meditation? I doubt it. In different sutras, in different texts, they have different ways of calling what is a meditation. And over here is meditating on the image of the Buddha. And one single array over here means the emptiness of no birth. That's the synonym of one single array over here. When he courses in it, a bodhisattva, a great being, will quickly know full enlightenment. Then it says that one single array of no birth is a synonym, a son or daughter of a good family who wants to enter into concentration of this kind of one single array should first of all ask questions about the perfection of wisdom. After that, he will enter into concentration on one single array. And why? Manjushri is because no birth is immaterial, undisturbed, unshakable, unthinkable, beyond all reflection, and inconceivable. Manjushri, a son or daughter of good family who wants to enter into this concentration on one single array must live in secluded area and become one who is not found of company. He must sit down with his legs crossed without paying attention to any sign, but he should pay attention to the Tathagata and all dharmas by the way of non-observation. Then he pays attention to Tathagata. He should grasp his name, and then he has heard the name and apprehend it. So you can then visualize the Vajrasattva or the Buddha on top of your head or right in front of you, and then chant the name and chant the mantra at the same time. He should then sit down facing the direction in which the Tathagata is, and then he pays attention just to the Tathagata. Through the attention to him, all the past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords are attended. By chanting one mantra, you are chanting all the mantras of the Tathagatas of the 3 times. Why is that? Because all the Tathagatas, in the nature, there are no other. For the same reason, one single is this Tathagata, just as one single Tathagata has immeasurable Buddha qualities and immeasurable eloquence. Just so, when one has arrived at the concentration on one single array from one single non-production or no birth, immeasurable sphere of discourses on Dharma must be expected, which proceed from it and which have been taught by the Tathagatas. Just as many as have been kept in mind of Ananda, so many discourses on Dharma should be expected from him. As Ananda is the number 1 disciple who heard the most Dharma. And then when he has accomplished this concentration on one single array, he should abide until the end of his lifespan, preaching the Dharma to sentient beings in the 4 continents. And if again it occurs to some of those who belong to the vehicle of bodhisattvas, which of the many concentration, then is this concentration on one single array. So just as if the 1 grain of rice is cooked, the rest of the grain of the rice is also cooked. All teachings are exactly the same. The Dharma teaching is exactly the same. Knowing one is knowing other. Holding this one single array is unthinkable. And if you give this teaching to others, then all the merits would then appear. It is then for someone who don't have a fragile or doubtful state of mind towards this teaching. For people with the wrong view, will not be able to then understand this concentration or have a dualism. They won't be able to understand it. It is as if someone had a priceless, precious jewel unpolished, and someone asked him, "What is this jewel of yours, and what are its qualities?" In reply, he might say that the quality of this jewel are measureless. It's priceless. Polish it, and you will know. Upon giving it to other person so that he might polish it and find out the quality to possess it. Once he polishes it, he knows that the great worth is then reviewed. After polishing it, he knows this is a piece of really precious jewel, the wish-fulfilling jewel. Without having the non-dualistic understanding, they won't know that this is the teaching, just like the wish-fulfilling jewel. You have to understand that you have to polish away all your dualistic thinking and understanding emptiness so that you will be able to see its true nature as a wish-fulfilling jewel. So one-point array actually has great benefits. just as how the sun do not discriminate when it radiates its rays, or like the ocean has the same salty taste. Just so, the concentration on one single array proclaims the one single taste of all demonstrations of the Dharma. The Buddha, in fact, has such nature. By practicing the arising stage, or the perfection stage, generation stage, or perfection stage, practicing Vajrasattva or Amitabha, you should understand that the nature of it is no birth, because without understanding it, you won't be able to see that this is the wish-fulfilling jewel that you've already possessed in your hand. So you have to understand that it is the nature that is empty, that is no birth. Then you'll be able to polish this piece of jewel and see its true nature. We shall then understand that it is our wrong view, our dualistic understanding of emptiness, or not understanding emptiness, that blocks us of seeing the true nature of these wish-fulfilling jewels. In the 17th chapter of Noble Sutra, Adopting Virtual Roots, it also talks about this. And there's a story that's talked in the Lion's Roar of Maitreya Sutra. I'm going to tell you very briefly due to the time strain, but I really wish all of you could read carefully throughout the whole story. In the Lion Roar of Maitreya Sutra, it talks about during the causal stage of Shakyamuni Buddha, he manifested, or he was born as the Bodhisattva Great Exertion. His name means great exertion. He's really beautiful and very elegant. He's this very beautiful young boy who was born into a family of Brahmin and who later became the king. At that time, it was really popular for all the bhikshus to paint the pictures of the Buddha. And one of them who's particularly at making impressive paintings of the Buddha and great exertion at that time saw this painting of this bhikshu. At that time, he thought to himself, the depiction of the Buddha is so wonderful. I think the Buddha and the Tathagatas' body must be even better. So at that time, he generated this longing to see the Buddha, and he generated a great sense of renunciation and a great faith towards the Buddha. And he was thinking to himself that if I were to live in this palace and practice on the image of the Buddha, I don't think I'll ever be able to succeed. Therefore, at that time, he decided to then get ordained. At the age of 16, he told his parents that I really want to get ordained. Please grant my wish. But his parents were very anxious and they can't agree because he said that you're my only son. How can I then allow you to do that? We will be so saddened. And then the parents rejected his proposal. Out of desperation, he stopped eating. He refrained from eating. And after 7 days, in fact, the first and 7 days, what happened to him was clearly then described in this story. For many of you probably know, if you don't eat or drink for 7 days, it's difficult to maintain your health or to live even. And then on the 7th day, a celestial being appears and made this announcement with his penetration, his great penetrating power, and saying that it is quite wondrous that a person who made such firm proclamation to step onto the path of enlightenment, and it has great merit. You shouldn't stop them. You shouldn't stop him. And then at that moment, the parents of great exertion, as well as the relatives, repented. And although very sad, but they agreed for him to go and practice with the image of the Buddha. So great exertion then went into the forest to practice with a shelf set up and placed the image on top of it and started sitting right across and started meditating to it. He then thought to himself that, wow, this is so wonderful. The beautiful and the finest qualities of the Buddha is absolutely marvelous, and I really wish that I could see the true body of the Tathagata. But it's probably too difficult for me to see him. And at that time, a celestial being who was right over there in the forest, then knew his thoughts, and then he told the great exertion, saying that, as for your desire to see the Tathagata's form, this discursive thought itself is already the Tathagata's form. The image in front of you is in fact no different than the actual form of the Tathagata. If you were aware of this, you would realize that you are actually seeing the body of the Buddha. So the discursive thought itself is already the Tathagata's form. This is so important to remember. This is already Buddha. I think during the teaching of the illuminous essence, it talks about how the mantras of the Tathagatas are no other than the true form of Tathagata. If you're chanting the mantras of Avalokiteshvara, it's no difference of seeing Avalokiteshvara. In Tibetan, we say that the deity and mantra is no other. Just as if we were to visualize Padmasambhava, you're thinking that I am visualizing Padmasambhava who's far away from me, I need to make a good connection to him. Then that is discursive thought. But that discursive thought of thinking about him is already Tathagata. This is a Pith instruction, and you should remember it. This is not some kind of folklore fairy tale. This is Vajra speech. This is a diamond speech from sutras. When we practice Vajrasattva, we often talk about to visualize yourself as Vajrasattva. When you practice Amitabha in the Mahayoga, then we would visualize ourselves as Amitabha ourselves. So in lots of the Vajrayana practices, this is already included, although this is not really very apparent in the Sutrayana, or included in the Sutrayana rather. So at that time, the great exertion, he then started contemplating upon this and thinking that that's very true. Just as the image or thinking about the beauty of the form of Tathagata, in fact, the true form, the true Tathagata is also without direct cognition, without fruition, without coming, without going, without contamination, without purification, and so on. Upon contemplating this, he attained many great merits and great miraculous powers within as short as 7 months. And then he went into the palace and went into cities, started propagating and teach the Dharma to different people, to all different people. And then the people who listened to his Dharma teaching also attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So, just as the great exertion bodhisattva, you should also visualize the Buddha image. There are a few quotes from different sutras. I really hope that you contemplate a bit. Today, I don't think we will then have we'll have the after-class presentation. And then I sent them to meditate upon visualizing the Buddha statue instead. Lots of the Dharma teachers, lots of the presentation or after-class discussion group. I really hope that you could then discuss and talk about how to visualize and teach others how to visualize the Buddha and why. I think this kind of teaching is quite important. So after he gave the teaching, on one hand, great exertion, then his teaching led many people to liberation and so on. On the other hand, there are people who do not have such capacity of visualizing the Buddha. Then at least when they can make offering to the Buddha would also accumulate great merits. But it is unreasonable to do only this and abandon all the other virtuous activities, as this would give rise to pride and arrogance. For lots of people, you should not only concentrate on making offering, but as according to Kashyapa, you should also then practice and then listen to the teaching so that you will receive blessings from the Buddhas. So today we finished the first part of this booklet, of this part of teaching. In the Sutra of Great Heap, it talks about a lot of merit. Later on, next class, in fact, we're going to learn the actual practice of visualizing the Buddha. So today's class, the first one of today's point is to often visualize the Buddha. Second one is if it's difficult for you to remember the whole class, at least you should remember that the discursive thought of thinking of the Tathagata is Tathagata itself. When you look at Vajrasattva that's in front of you, that is already Vajrasattva. The grasping and the longing to be Vajrasattva is already Vajrasattva. So from this aspect, I think it's quite important to then really remember. For as Mahayana practitioners, I think you really don't read enough. We call ourselves as Mahayana Buddhists, but we are not good disciples of Mahayana Buddhists. because we only know a teeny tiny bit of that great ocean of Mahayana teachings. One pointedly to attain Buddhahood is really worthy of our contemplation. Later, I'll make some after-class announcements for the people over here. And that's all for today.